Hello and welcome to Off the Shelf Reviews.
I want you to draw me like one of your French girls, Gary.
And I'm Gary. And today we're going to review and discuss Titanic, which came out in 1997, written and directed by James Cameron. Ian, why don't you give us the synopsis for Titanic?
Well, the story follows that fateful night back in 1912 where the great luxurious liner, the Titanic, crashed into an iceberg and sank. At the same time, though, we are taken on a ride with the love story involving Kate Winslet and Leonardo DiCaprio playing Rose and Jack, and how the effects of that tragic night play on their lives.
Titanic is, for me, the first major blockbuster that I was aware of.
Okay.
It was the film that just kept on going. I remember having the VHS tape,
Yeah.
and Titanic was still in the cinema. Titanic kind of broke lots of records.
Yes.
It was the biggest budgeted film that went over budget.
Yeah.
It was the highest grossing film. It was the first film to be in cinemas and out on VHS DVD at the same time. This film was the number one film for 15 consecutive weeks in the cinema. It's just unheard of.
Yeah.
And, Titanic has universal worldwide appeal. There's very few people today that have not seen it or even know the story of Titanic. I thought it was amazing that when the film came out, a lot of people didn't even realize that Titanic was a real story.
Yeah.
And they were like, "What? Really?"
Yeah. But that's just humans. I mean, when I was a kid, I remember we went to a car boot sale, and there was no internet back when I was a kid, so it was all books. You had to buy everything on books, and one of these books I bought was The World's Greatest Disasters. And what caught my eye was the Titanic. It's that image of the back of back of the ship up in the air and all the boats coming away with all the people in them. It was like, oh my God, this is real. This is one of the biggest disasters of the world, and it has always piqued my interest. I've always loved the Titanic disaster. I'm not being sick or anything. I just think it's really good. And so when I grew up, they released A Night to Remember, the black and white Titanic movie. Absolutely love that movie as well. I think it's really, really well done. And then I was able to watch Raise the Titanic, which I think is actually a superior movie to James Cameron's Titanic, simply because they fucking raise the Titanic. That was pretty fucking amazing back then. But then all of a sudden James Cameron comes along and says, I'm making a Titanic movie. And there wasn't one part of me, I think, at that point that thought he wasn't going to. We're talking James Cameron, fucking Terminator 2, Aliens, True Lies. This guy would go, well, Avatar after this. But hearing that he was going to make a Titanic movie, what caught my interest was the background research he was going into.
Well, it was kind of after The Abyss. James Cameron was just obsessed with the ocean.
Yeah.
Interesting bit of trivia is that James Cameron's actually spent more time on board the Titanic than any of the passengers. The amount of dives and research that he did, Also, this film cost more than it did to actually build the original Titanic, accounting for inflation, But what always gets me is the environment he creates. From those opening shots of seeing the submersibles go down, and you've got the great fucking Bill Paxton playing Brock Lovett, who's obviously the kind of James Cameron version character of studying the Titanic, and he's looking for this necklace, and you're like, oh, there's a bit of a mystery there, and it's so beautiful. Like Gary said, just like The Abyss, you're seeing these submersibles go around the wreckage. They grab this safe that they believe that the necklace is inside, bring it to the surface, and they can't find it. There's nothing in there except a naughty drawing.
Guys, look, you just got to trust my instincts. I know we're close. We just got to go through a little process of elimination. Hang on a second. Let me see that.
We might have something here, guys.
Somebody got naked the night it sank, and who was that lady? And that's when we cut to
Well, they say she's supposed to be, what, 101 at this point?
Yeah.
You know, we cut to 101 Rose, and she sees the picture and calls up Bill Paxton and says, hey, you've got my drawing. I know about the necklace. And I like that. There's this kind of, go back to Titanic element. We're not just going to start there.
Yeah. Now, some people have kind of used this as a defense for some of the lousy writing between the two main characters in the film.
Yeah.
Is that this is all being told as a memory. And so therefore it's purely justifiable to go, well, because it's all a memory of something that happened 80 plus years ago.
Yeah.
You can imagine that it would be a little bit watery.
Nice. I like what you did there. Yeah, I like the fact that not only does she have the memory of how she got on board the boat, but she also has the memory of how Jack got on the boat as well.
Yeah.
You know, she was able to. I mean, okay.
Well, he did kind of tell her, so
yeah. I was
so
gonna
exactly,
say,
it's all memory,
she just elaborated. But the level of detail for Liverpool, all the people on the docks.
Yes, you know, it's fun when you see the ship going out and you see that cameraman there.
Yeah,
really I'm like, that's all the footage. I've seen all that man's footage of the ship leaving.
Well, what got me as well is that if you could stop that part of the film. When the ship goes out of Liverpool, you could stop the film there and go to Ghostbusters 2 and see the ghost ship coming in and be like, oh, yeah, there you go.
It only took him 80 years to get there.
It's some dock supervisor down at Pier 34.
What's the problem?
He says the Titanic just arrived.
Well, better late than never.
But the ship finally gets out, and you are kind of left with maybe, I think it's an hour's worth of relationship building. You know, we have the beautiful, amazing Kate Winslet playing Rose, and she's oppressed, I suppose. You know, she's forced into this life. Her mother is forcing her to marry Billy Zane's character of Cal Hockley. And he's not a nice person.
Billy Zane playing Billy Zane. You know, he has one scene in the film where he shows any kind of compassion or a semblance of a real character, other than just being this bully.
And they called it Le Coeur de la Mer, the heart of the ocean. Yes. You know, there's nothing I couldn't give you. There's nothing I'd deny you. If you would not deny me. Now open your heart to me, Rose.
You know, this millionaire who just wants everything his way, and he wants his trophy wife.
Yeah.
And, you know, Rose is everything but a trophy wife.
Yeah.
And she's kind of been forced into it by her mother. And again, there is a great sequence where her mother's putting her corset on, and it is just kind of
tightening
the bars around her and just saying, "This is your life. You will accept it because of our family history. How could you see me as a seamstress?"
Yeah.
Just like, okay, so we've got some motivation from the mother, but again, for the rest of the film, she is just an utter bitch who just, this film does paint a picture of the first class being utter snobs.
Yeah.
You know, there's not very many likable ones.
But the thing is, I started to really enjoy that because on the opposite end, we've got Jack, you know, and he's poor, he's living on the jack of all trades that he's got. You know, it is kind of highly unbelievable that Jack would know as much as he does about everything that's going on. You know, he's able to get to every situation with Rose. He's able to help her out with every situation. You know, he's saving her life towards the end. And I'm like, oh, come on, hold on a minute. This guy doesn't seem natural.
Again, I would just put it down to partial memory.
Yeah. But part of me, after a while, I was like, actually, you know what? On the grander scale of things, because I know what's going to happen. You know, even before I even saw the Titanic movie the first time, I was like, I know how this ends. And as I already know that Rose is alive, because we've seen the older version of her, I'm kind of waiting to see what happens to these two characters with this huge disaster, because everything that you're talking about, your positions in life and the rich and poor classes, that's going to mean nothing at about midnight. When I see all those people walking around the deck of the Titanic, they're all happy, smoking, laughing. I'm like, you're all dead. You're all dead. All I see is dead people.
It's also at this point that you would have seen some of the impressive CGI work that was done in the film. Obviously, they rebuilt the set, but they used such a range. They used every trick in the book when it comes to special effects. Obviously, James Cameron utilising what he'd learnt with the Terminator film, especially with miniatures, filming things and the over-filming things, like the engine room with the pistons, and he hired shorter people so that the pistons would look even bigger than they actually are.
Yeah.
To shots of the Titanic sailing through the ocean with crew members walking around, and I just remember looking at the film and seeing these crew members, like they look like ants.
Yeah,
and that's because they're kind of clockworky in their movements.
Yeah,
until it actually cuts to the real actors, and you're like, oh yeah, you could then tell now looking at it. But I just remember being so impressed with it at the time, the scale of it. That the special effects work. Watching it now, I can kind of go, ooh,
yeah.
You can see where it's looking a little bit dated now, but
but we're talking about a film. I mean, I only realised this, and it's kind of coincidental that this would go up in 2018, first time. 20 years.
Yeah,
it's been 20 years since this film was made, and it was top of the line when the film was released. So. The fact that you can go 20 years later, they've tightened it up in HD and 4K and whatever, but you still look at it and go, I can just see the lines there.
Yeah.
That symbolizes that James Cameron spent a lot of hard work trying to hide those lines from us.
Oh yeah. And so we get to the point where it's nighttime and Rose is wandering the decks of the ship, and she decides to climb over the back of the ship in an attempt of suicide.
Yeah.
Now, we know that what she is facing is pretty dire, a relationship which there is no happiness, no anything except just the dread.
Yeah.
That she's like, this is an other solution. So Jack turns up and explains to her that actually jumping in there is going to be a lot worse than you probably imagine.
It hits you like 1,000 knives stabbing you all over your body. You can't breathe, can't think. At least not about anything but the pain.
And she's like, okay, yeah, help me back over.
My theory is that the sea was denied a victim and so thus took its revenge on the Titanic. What? Honestly, she was about to kill herself and the sea was going to embrace her, but Jack saved her, and so the ocean, it needs its victim. It needs its sacrifice. It's all Jack's fault, really. But one of the things I always thought about this film, which was brilliant, is we have the Jack and Rose character, and they have now found each other, and the love story is there. But it's the fact that you have, with those fictional characters, the non-fictional characters, we've got Captain Birdseye, running the ship.
It's King Theoden.
It's King Theoden. When I saw him and he's looking over the ship, I'm like, Gondor calls for aid.
Right.
You've got the amazing Kathy Bates playing the unsinkable Molly, who, it's just an amazing character from history of this strong female woman fighting against female oppression, who happens to be aboard the fucking one liner that's going to sink in the middle of the ocean. How's that for strong women independence?
I love her character as well. It's a shame because she has a few deleted scenes in the film as well.
Yeah.
She was one of the characters that was screaming at the lifeboats to go back to Titanic.
Yeah.
She's the character that takes Jack under her wing and dresses him in her son's clothing. She's the one who can see that Rose is trapped in her relationship. She's aware of everything that's going on.
Yeah.
Just love that character. And also Kathy Bates, just, we've seen her dark side in Misery. But again, you can just see that she is just such a lovely lady and a fantastic actress as well.
Yeah. But you've also got, you've got the guy who built the ship, and you've got the guy who runs for the White Star Liner. And those are two real characters as well. And those non-fictional characters' presence in the film, after a while, makes me partially believe that Rose and Jack are real.
Well, yeah, I mean, James Cameron this was a well-researched film, and so every character,
every piece of dialogue, every set piece that goes on around our two lead characters all happened. Have all been documented and accounted for, and people that survived the Titanic recounted their stories, and all of those things were put in the film. You know, every single bit of it. And so it's just like all these little bits were just borrowed and put in. And it builds a complete picture.
And it keeps it flowing. You know, you don't get distracted by the loving relationship to take you away from the disaster. And the disaster doesn't seem to loom there like a dark shadow.
Well, you kind of know it's coming. Everyone watching the film just knows it's coming.
Yeah, but that, for me, elevates the loving relationship. Because I'm like, even though I kind of know what's going to happen, I want them to get away. You know, because it's going to be harsh when it all kicks off. And you're seeing all the little signals, you know, the captain's being forced to make the ship go faster. You know, they have no proper lighting to protect them from the iceberg that's going to be looming ahead. You know for a fact they haven't got enough lifeboats, and there's far too many people crammed on board. And so when it flips back to present day, I kind of felt a little bit relieved. You know, because it was kind of like an intermission to say, look, you've had that filler, okay? Swallow that, take that in, digest that. You know all the characters now. You know you know what's about to happen. So we're now going to take you into the disaster sequence of the movie. And yeah, from that moment, you know, Jack and Rose, their relationship has gotten to the point now where Jack is taking her down to the poor section. You know, they're dancing, they're having drinks. And she convinces him to draw her nude, like one of his French girls. And we'd already seen that Jack he'd been to Paris and he'd done still life drawings and all that. And he's a very skilled man, very fucking skilled. What's he doing on this boat? I don't know. You know, he should be anywhere but here. And we get that fabulous naked shot of Kate Winslet lying there with the necklace on.
Here's a bit of trivia for you, is that Kate Winslet kind of felt she had a bit of anxiety about doing this sequence with Jack.
Yeah.
And so when she first met Leonardo DiCaprio, she flashed him her boobs.
Nice.
Just so that she wouldn't feel any anxiety when doing the actual scene. And it is a fantastic scene as well. You know, even Leonardo DiCaprio fumbles his words of dialogue. And it
so
stayed
brilliant.
in the film.
Yeah.
You know, it just worked. You kind of felt their innocence. They're both comfortable with each other. You've spent the last hour and a half with these two characters. Yeah. And you already know that they're in love before they do, before they really accept it.
Yes.
And, you know, and... Again, it cuts back to Bill Paxton and everyone sat there going, did you get it on? Did you get it on? Did you fuck him? And then she's just like, no, he was a gentleman, a professional, you know? I put my clothes back on and she appreciates the work. And then I think they put the binder in the safe.
Yes.
Which we saw them pull out at the beginning of the film.
Yeah, and they put the necklace back and she leaves a note to Billy Zane to say, look, I'm leaving you. And they're chased by David Warner, who's Billy Zane's kind of bodyguard, you know, his butler, and they're chased all the way through the ship. And I mean, I really like this sequence, but I like it later on that they do it better. It's just the initial kind of chase all the way through the decks, all the way, showing you all the ins and outs and depths of the ship, all the way through the engine room into the bilge hold where all the cars are, and that's where they fuck. You know, I'm just going to drop that out there. You know, I'm trying to be nice and polite, but come on, the whole steamy hand down the window.
That's awesome. I mean, how many people have replicated it or parodied it or commented on it? It's beautifully shot. You know, it captures everything without being gratuitous. You know, that was lovemaking. It wasn't a fuck. You know. It was the only time that they would.
Yeah.
So, again, just like Terminator, it's just kind of that, those lovers that are meant to be, and they have that one time, and that's it.
It's amazing. Yeah, it's amazing, because then they're out onto the deck, and that iceberg.
This is one of the greatest sequences in the film. You know, James Cameron knows how to shoot action films.
Yes.
He's done so successfully over and over again. The way this sequence is shot from the ship's captain or the lieutenant or whoever it is looking at the iceberg, seeing it, the reactions, the sending the message back down to the engine room to full stop, hard to starboard,
Yeah.
moving the wheel, and then watching the ship just continue to
Yeah.
head straight towards the iceberg.
You know, the company was supposed to have been cutting corners and things like that. The propeller itself was too small for a ship that size.
Well, it was the
to
rudder.
move it.
They couldn't.
Yeah.
It was going too fast, and they can only move at slight angles.
Yeah,
So
and that's it. There's a lot of corresponding factors that would have pushed this ship was gonna sink. The fact you called it unsinkable on its maiden voyage,
Yeah.
you know, and denied the ocean its sacrifice as well. You were asking for trouble.
I just think it's amazing as well that the blame has never really been placed on anybody. It was either the captain who decided this is my last voyage. I'm just going to get to New York and make headlines as my last run as a captain, and then you have Bruce Ismay, who is the owner of the White Star company.
Yeah.
And in the film, he's heard telling the captain to light the last 4 boilers and get to New York a day early.
As fast as possible.
As fast as possible.
Of course, I'm just a passenger. I leave it to your good offices to decide what's best. What a glorious end to your final crossing if we were to get into New York on Tuesday night and surprise them all. Make the morning papers.
And even though the captain knows, I mean, this captain is a veteran. He knows that doing this is dangerous and wrong.
Yeah.
You know? And at the same time, we also... The people that are receiving the messages, the Morse code, the communications on the ship, they were so busy dealing with first-class correspondence that the messages of icebergs and ice floats went unnoticed.
Yes.
In the film, a couple of them make it up top, and they're just like... And the captain turns around and goes, yeah, it's normal for this time.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, shit. Like, as an audience member, you're like, oh, God. Like, he's dismissed it. So... Is the blame on the captain? Is the blame on the communications area? Or is the blame on Bruce Ismay for forcing him to do it? No one... Because Bruce Ismay survives the Titanic sinking, people asked him, did you force the captain to go faster? And he blatantly says, no. Of course never. I never did that. Although there was a female character famous for overhearing a conversation where he spoke to the captain. And in the sequence in the film, when he's telling the captain, if you look... There's a woman sat on the table behind, looking straight at Bruce Ismay as he delivers that line.
Nice.
And she's supposed to be the one who overheard that, and so therefore the blame would be on him.
It's multiple things.
Yes.
Like I said, it's multiple things. It was the dodginess of the building of the ship. You know, it was already over. It was already too big. You know, they already knew the design faults before they even put it in the water, but they put too much money into it. Yeah. You know, the fact that it's like when the designer says when 5 compartments are filled with water, the ship's going down because the bulkheads are not designed for that.
They weren't built properly.
They weren't built properly. Not enough lifeboats. Whoever made that call, you know, especially when they do get the lifeboats into the water and they start deciding that they're only going to put in 60 rich folk in there, and we're going to keep the third-class people down there. That's blatantly murder. But whose order was that? Well, it's been filtered down from everybody. It's the society element that they live in as well. If all the rich people had gone those lifeboats, I reckon all the third-class people would have been left to die, and it would have been all of the crew's fault for having to follow orders from the people higher above. So there are many different people who could be pointed out to blame, but it's kind of like a whole thing. You know, it all falls to the White Star. I mean, where are the White Star now? Oh yeah, nowhere, because technically I think they lost the ship just before the Titanic as well.
Oh dear.
Yes, you know. And it's really quite scary, because what gets me is the children element in Cameron's movie. You know, I never noticed this when I first time I watched it. It was just a disaster movie. I've seen enough of them to see people die and go, oh, it happens. Now that I'm older, you know, there are women and children running around. There are children screaming in the corridors, and part of you wants to believe that they survived, but you know that they don't. Mm-hmm. And you know, 1,500 people are going into the water, and only 6 of them are going to come out. You know, everybody else is going to die. Jeanette Goldstein appears in the movie
You know, and she has 2 children. And I love Vasquez, but I think at the same time, this is one of her best performances as well. She only has like 3 scenes. You see her at the beginning, partially in the middle, but it's that end sequence where she sat in her compartment, in her room, with her children, and it's all, and the outside's already underwater.
And so they lived happily together for 300 years in the land of Tir na Nog, land of eternal youth and beauty.
And I'm like, those poor children. You know, there's that woman who's holding the baby, and she says to the captain, where do I go? And he knows he can't send her anywhere. And I think you see her later on floating in the water when the life rafts come back.
I always loved the old couple as well. That
Oh,
were
in
on
the bed. Oh.
Now, there was a, there was a famous couple that actually were millionaires, I think, and they owned a company. And she was offered a seat on the lifeboat, and she refused to get on because she said, you jump, I jump. It was, you go, I go. So if my husband can't get on the boat with me, I'll stay on the Titanic with him. And that was kind of borrowed for Rose
and Jack,
as well. And so when they're huddled up on that bed and you see the water racing in underneath, I just started tearing up straight away. It's just like, oh my God.
And that's the thing, the water in this movie is an unstoppable force. You know, there are many great villains we could name, but the water in
Mother Nature.
Yeah, the water in Titanic, it's unstoppable because, it's got, you can't convince it to leave you alone. It's just going to fill those corridors up. The ship is going down. And I love the model work. Like I said, James Cameron built that set of just the partial of the ship. You know, the melding in of the CGI computer work of the ship breaking down. You know, the lifeboat starting to pull away. There was that one shot I saw where they fire a flare up.
Yeah.
And it just it blows up, but you get that wide shot of just a Titanic in the middle of the fucking black ocean.
Yeah, and it's just it is so beautifully shot that every image, and especially that one, just shows you the hopelessness of their situation.
I love how strong Rose starts to get towards the end as well. You know, they keep trying to force her onto the boat, and she keeps fighting back.
Yeah. For me, it was also the hardships of those in the engine room. You know, the ones first hit when the water breaks into the ship, and you see them all fleeing and panicking, and all of the bulkhead doors closing down. You see the one that's kind of rallying everyone to get out, and you see that one poor guy, shoot underneath and his legs kicking as the door comes down. And then that poor bastard that's banging on the door like, hey, still in here. I'm just like, oh, man.
Yeah, man, you're going to be still in there.
I can only imagine once all the lights go out under there and the water's coming in, just like the panic and terror. And that's, again, what this film's so relatable is because it is horrific. And you put yourself in the mindset of everyone that's rushing away from that water. And it's not a place you ever want to be.
I mean, the only positive I can come out of it is that once you hit that water, you probably got a couple of minutes and then that's it.
Well, yes, it is true. And, James Cameron tortured all of his actors in this film. Kate Winslet ended up in hospital suffering from pneumonia because she didn't really want to wear a wetsuit under her clothing during some of the filming, and James Cameron used ice cold water to recreate it. And so when you see Jack and Kate get in the water and they go,
come on, let's go. Oh shit, this is cold. Oh shit.
When their lips are shivering and they're purple and and they're feeling the cold, they are really feeling it because they Cameron wanted us, the audience, to feel what the actors were feeling, what the real people were feeling at the exact time that the ship was going down.
Oh man, the musicians.
Oh yes. Oh,
you see them throughout the film playing music whilst all these first class nonces are enjoying themselves and no one's paying any attention to them. They're on the decks of the ship as it's slowly sinking and they're playing music.
Yeah.
And they're just like, well, no one's listening. And he goes, well, no one listens to us at dinner either, so, we'll just keep playing.
Yeah.
Until they get to the point where they can literally see the ocean now. And they just go, okay, good luck, gentlemen. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah.
and the one musician just starts playing a sad melody.
Yeah.
And all the others just come walking back over to him, and they're just like, yeah, we'll play too.
We'll play with you.
You know, not a single one of them survived, but those that did survive remember the band playing until they went into the water.
It's the same with the crew as well. You've got that one guy, Murdoch. You know,
Yeah.
he's a standout character doing his job all the way through the film, and then he's being forced to take women and children only onto the boats. Seeing all the panic that's going on, people are convinced, and Billy Zane is paying him to allow him onto the boats to let him to live. You know, and he's given up his spot. He's not going to be going on until the very last moment. And then when you've got you've got the third class passengers trying to force himself on, and he accidentally shoots Tommy, the Irish character we've partially been following along with Jack and Rose. He can't live with it, and he just, you know, salutes his fellow crew member, puts the gun to his head and blows his brains out, and he falls overboard. And you feel so bad for that guy, because he didn't mean to kill that guy. And you supposedly there are stories that it did happen on board, you know, over the panic, the craziness.
Some people, I mean, no one really knows if anyone was shot and killed. They reported gunshots, and I think a lot of them were warning shots.
Yeah,
but whether, you know, it's like the White Line staff, you know, are locking those third class citizens underneath decks as it's flooding with water.
Yeah.
And it's just like, that did actually happen.
That did
happen.
happen,
Whilst the ship was sinking, people were arrested for committing structural damage to Titanic. And it's like, what went on with the staff and crew of this ship that, you know, the left hand wasn't telling the right hand what to do.
Yeah.
And everyone was just kind of left to do whatever as it was happening.
That's it.
You know, but as it is happening, you know, we get James Horner's fucking amazing pieces of music that really hits you in the guts and pushes all the feeler buttons.
Yes.
As the water's coming in, crashing in, people are drowning.
That whole sequence with the ship going up, you know, you're seeing as many people scramble to the edge. You know, Rose and Jack are rushing to the edge. You see the people in the lifeboats watching the back end of the ship go up. I mean, James Cameron recreated it so amazingly. It's forever in my mind. And, you know, first time I watched it, I laughed at these moments and I thought they were funny. Is where you see the people accidentally letting go and they're hitting things on the way down. You know, you're seeing a guy hit the propeller. You see the guy hit the rope holder. You know, now watching it, I do go, that's harsh. You know, because
brutal.
Because in my mind starts imagining, what if they're not dead when they hit? What happens if they're just in immense pain and they just hit the water? That makes it even worse. You know, what happens if they hit somebody on the way down? You see all those people in the water, like Fabrizio and that funnel. The twanging of the wires and the funnel coming down and crushing them all. You're just like, oh my God, it's so bad. But like I said, Jack just seems to know. He just seems to know. Like how many sinkings has Jack been in that he knows exactly where to be and what to do at the exact right moment. Come on, Rose, we're going to hold our breath and then we're going to swim and kick because it's going to suck us down. It's like, Jack, how many sinkings have you been in? Well, this will be my third. So, yeah, I shouldn't be on the ocean, really. But they get separated underwater. And this next sequence as well, when they're all in the water, when all the people are in the water, it's a terrifying sequence. You know, there's only a few minutes of life left in all these people. You know, the survivors in the lifeboats are now trying to sort their lifeboats out so that they can come back and try and rescue some more people. But they're not going to make it in time. The water is devastatingly freezing. And Jack manages to save Rose from another man trying to drown her and sticks her on that plank.
Mm-hmm.
And, I mean, we talk about iconic sequences in cinema, but this is one of them. You know, Jack in the water and Rose on the plank. Him knowing he can't get on there because
it'll
capsize
sink.
her. Yeah, it'll capsize her. And he sacrifices himself.
You're gonna go on, and you're gonna make lots of babies, and you're gonna watch them grow. You're gonna die an old lady, warm in her bed. Not here. Not this night.
But then, after a couple of minutes, and he's now dead, everybody else is dead, and she's got to climb in the water to try and get the whistle.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's just so brilliantly done because you're on the edge of your seat, like, come on, Rose, come on. You know, you promised Jack you're gonna fucking survive, bitch, and fucking swim. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, I remember at the time when the film came out that, you know, everyone thought it was funny. I'll never let go, see ya.
Yeah.
And everyone kind of parodied and joked about that, and I was just like, that's just really cold. I think you missed the point.
Yeah.
Although, a bit of trivia is that Jack's body really shouldn't have sunk.
No,
he should have just floated.
Unless he filled himself up with gold before he left. Oh, it's the ocean. It's the ocean taking its sacrifice back. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm just going to put it down to Rose's memory.
Yeah.
Again,
Yeah.
And so yeah, you know, she manages to get picked up by one of the lifeboats that did come back. Too late, as everyone else is just frozen, and you know the reports of those that did row back in to help the survivors said he couldn't really because of the ocean was full of bodies.
Yeah,
which is just horrific. Just a horrific thought.
And they still had to wait a couple of hours until the Carpathia turned up, which you know is it's just as bad because you've just been through this most horrific event, and now you've got to, and it's the waiting. You've got to wait for the boats. Finally, the boats do pick them up, and you know we come back to the future, and she finishes the story, and this is where I kind of have a couple of issues with the film. Now, first off, Rose has found the heart of the ocean necklace in her pocket, and yes, okay, so she's a free spirit now, and she doesn't want to be held down by any major necklaces or jewelry or richness and stuff like that. She wants to live free like Jack. But she knows that Brock has been working for at least 3 years researching Titanic and has done nothing but put himself into fucking debt working, looking for this necklace. And she lobs it in the ocean.
Yeah, that's the right thing to do. It really is. It's for this story, it's not Brock's story.
Poor Brock now has to go back and be like, yeah, when it's not down there. Well, yeah, it is, because she's just lobbed it. So actually, Brock, maybe tomorrow you should just go back down there and find her. And another thing, Rose dies in her sleep peacefully, 101 years old. And magically, ghostly goes back down to the wreckage of the Titanic and hooks up with all the people that died on the boat.
Love it.
Beautiful.
Love it.
Yeah, beautiful.
It's the fact that, when the two of them were on on the life raft just before Jack freezes to death, he tells her to go and have a life. And, when she passes away and you see all of the pictures of everything, of the life she's done, and she completes that promise to him. Yeah, I'm just like,
Which is amazing, but this film is now showing us that she's kind of gone to the afterlife and happily met up with Jack, who was probably the one person that she loved. But we also know that after she got to America and after a little stint of an actress, she met her husband. She would meet her future husband, who she would marry and have children, who would have grandchildren and have a complete life with. No, where's he? What's he doing in the afterlife? Is he waiting for her somewhere else while she's down on the Titanic doing Jack? It's a bit unfair.
Welcome to the real world.
Fucking hell.
I mean, I just hope that whoever she did marry kind of
Had an affair?
Had an affair, you know, had his own love, you know, maybe he had his own love before he got married too, you know. I just think most people will have that one true, real love to which, you know, to the afterlife kind of thing. You know, it romanticizes their love story even more.
Yeah.
And whoever that husband was, you know, he was just a sperm donor, you know. Sorry, whoever that guy was.
Yeah.
Maybe she loved him, but she never would have felt as connected as, you know, Jack, who really saved her life.
Yeah. Oh, she saved his. You
Yeah.
know, they've got that little thing. They'll always have Titanic, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
Why did you do that? Why?
You jump high, jump right.
All right.
Oh, God. I couldn't go. Jack.
It's all right. There's something.
I got so many favourite sequences in the film. You know, there's a I love the shot when Rose gets out of the cabin and she's
Nice.
wearing that giant purple
Massive
hat,
hat, yeah.
and the way the camera kind of just the way it moves, the way it all just visually looks,
Yeah.
and everyone getting onto the ship and the car that she would make love in being dropped in, being
Yeah,
craned
nice,
in. It was
yeah.
just like all those little bits there.
Yeah.
But I love the fact that she's like, it doesn't look as big as the other ship that we've been on. And Billy Zane's character's like, well, this is the biggest ship by whatever. And then at the dinner table, Bruce Ismay's just like, this is the biggest ship ever. And then she's just like, you know, Freud would say that some men are overcompensating for something. And he's just like, whoa, who's Freud? Is he a passenger?
I wanted to convey sheer size.
Do you know of Dr. Freud, Mr. Ismay? His ideas about the male preoccupation with size might be of particular interest to you.
It's the same thing with the Picasso line as well. Like, oh, who's Picasso?
He'll never amount to anything. It's like, okay, yeah, we get it. But it kind of, it works. It kind of makes Billy Zane look more of a douchebag, you know?
Yeah.
And it makes Bruce Ismay look like an idiot. And, you know, considering they're villainous characters in the film, it's okay. It's okay. But I also really like that dinner table scene where Jack just says, you know, it's about finding your own luck. And it's about living each day, like a new day, and new challenges, new horizons, taking chances, and everyone
living free,
living free essentially. And so him sort of explaining that to all these first class people that are just so stuck in their routine that it was kind of refreshing, and some of them kind of appreciated this third class, lower level tale. Except for Rose's mother, who's just giving him evil looks all evening. It's just a great sequence, though. It's really well shot. And then just to contrast that with the music and the festivities going on lower decks.
Yeah.
I really loved the Titanic hitting the iceberg. You know, like I said, it's an amazing action sequence, which, you know, it's reported that the Titanic, in real life, when it hit the iceberg, it lasted 37 seconds. The sequence in the film of the Titanic hitting the iceberg is 37 seconds.
Yeah.
You know, it captures the real horror moment just perfectly. You know, and again, everyone on the ship at first are just like, wow, that was a close call.
Yeah.
Let's kick around the ice, you know, that's left on deck as a football. It's just like, actually happened.
You're going to die.
And the musicians playing as the ship goes down, the captain in his log, Vasquez with her kids in the cabin.
Nice.
You know, there's just so many little moments. You know, it's also the guy who built the ship just sort of adjusting the clock on the mantelpiece. You know, just sort of leaning in as the ship's tilting.
Yeah.
You know, and reported have said that was the last time they ever saw this person as well. Just like, it's ghostly and it's haunting. And when you see, once the ship is sinking, you see that female blonde figure in the white nightgown.
Oh,
just
God,
floating
yes. Oh,
like an apparition
shit.
in the water.
Yeah.
Oh,
scary.
Yeah, this film will make you laugh, and it will make you cry, and it will remind you of the horrors that humans face whenever we go on these new endeavors. You know, at the beginning of the 20th century, when, you know, before World War One, you know, and we'd sort of mastered the ocean with these giant luxury cruise liners.
Yeah. No. My favorite scenes, like I've got loads. The first favorite scene is the Titanic leaving port. It's amazing to look at. Jeanette Goldstein and her children. I could honestly just watch her throughout this movie, actually, because it really hits home for you that she was wanting to go to America to start a new life. You know, she was probably getting away from something really harsh. She's trying to do the best for her children. They're surviving day to day with what they have, and yet in the grander scale of things, it makes no fucking difference when somebody sticks a giant iceberg in the middle of your fucking path, and then nobody will allow you to escape to get free. But you basically, you know, she settles her children down. They're not panicking. She is there with them. And oh my God, I'm getting emotional now trying to fucking talk about it. It's just, oh God.
You can hear the music just playing and the screams and the panic. At least the film doesn't show you
too
large amounts of people drowning.
Yes.
You know,
it
cuts away, fades away. You don't actually see anybody drown.
No,
in the film.
No, you don't. I mean, you see people get swept away by water, but you don't actually see them drown. The brilliance of this movie is that your imagination does the rest of the work.
Yeah.
And, you know, the whole build-up of Jack and Rose, I could sit here and say it's sappy, it's stupid, the love story
But you cannot skip it.
You cannot skip it. You need it. And you need...
Because that's what carries the emotional weight, the resonance into that the final part.
That allows the change in the characters of Rose and Jack. You know, when we first see Rose at the end of the ship, she's willing on killing herself. When she's getting towards the end, she's willing on wading through waist-high water with an axe to save the man that she loves, who's handcuffed to a fucking pipe. You know, they're putting themselves in more dangerous situations while already in a massively huge, dangerous situation. The model work of the sinking is nightmarish. It is amazing. It's brutal. It's brilliant. It's just a lot of things, and breathtakingly and groundbreaking for James Cameron. It's one of them. You know, I recommend Titanic to people who love disaster movies, you know, people who love cinema, you know. I also recommend Raise the Titanic and A Night to Remember, because I think all three of them are just brilliant films. Like I said, I'm a big fan of the Titanic itself, and so whenever I get to watch it on screen, yes, there's some elements I could get rid of and ignore it, but as long as I get that ship, you know, ass up in the air, people screaming, lifeboats being rowed, like Gary said, it reminds me of how small we are in the grander scale of things and how easily we could just be enveloped by the darkness.
Yeah. I honestly didn't know where I would fall on this camp. I kind of thought I would recommend it, and I'm going to highly recommend it. You know, I was always called the James Cameron fanboy.
Yeah.
You know, I was always, James Cameron does no wrong.
I'm the king of the world!
Like, he is the king of the world when it comes to movies for me.
Yeah.
You know, Terminator and Aliens, I was like, don't care, whatever anyone else ever makes. Like, you'll never beat these films.
Yeah.
And so, you know, and then Cameron goes and does a romance film. And I'm like, yeah, but it's not just a romance film. You know, the romance part has been in his other films.
Yes.
Here it's more the forefront. And it works, you know. You're sold on Titanic sinking through the eyes of these characters. They're good characters. They're, you know, a lot of the characters got to ad-lib bits and pieces. They really fleshed out the characters as much as they could. The screenplay is a little bit weak at times with the dialogue, but it's serviceable.
Yeah.
To the point where it doesn't matter too much. I mean, I'm nitpicking.
Yeah, we're nitpicking.
Really. But, you know, watching the film again after nearly 20 years, you know, I was crying at the end of the film. Like, you can't help it. It's, you know, once you get swept away with the film, you're on that emotional roller coaster. And, you know, and it really is, because you feel for these passengers. You know, James Cameron gave every single extra on the film a small bit of history and a small bit of detail about who they're playing, where they're going, why they're on this ship, who they're with, who their families were, why they're leaving. And so every extra felt a sense of it, you know, and it's just movie-making magic is Titanic. Now, I can understand people wanting to hate on it and just go, it's 3 hours and it's a love story and blah, 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 blah. I'm like, I think you're probably too immature.
Yeah.
If that's where you fall on.
Yeah.
Because, you know, technically it's a filmmaking marvel. This film was nominated, rightly so, for a ton of Oscars. You know, and granted, I think that the Oscars can, you know, it's all a scam anyway.
Yeah.
You know, film-going audiences realised the weight of Titanic. It made such an impact in cinemas and to film that...
well, I mean, look, for example, fucking how many weeks did Celine Dion spend at number one?
Right.
And that song isn't even played in the fucking film.
No.
Not once! I was sat there for 2.5 hours waiting for that to come up, and all you get is the orchestral.
Yes.
You know,
that was the original intended credits.
That's it. And I was just like, it's not in here. But by the end of the film, I was singing it in my head, you know.
Did you know that Celine Dion hated the song? She hated it. And then when she recorded it, she went, that's awful, like, whatever. Sent it to James Horner, who wrote it, I believe, and went, hey, James Cameron, here's the music. And, you know, and it was a demo. And he put the demo in there because Celine Dion refused to record it again.
Cheeky bitch. Yeah. Little trivia. It's an amazing film.
Yeah. I don't know if I would rush to watch it again anytime soon. Maybe in another 20 years.
Oh, skip to the action sequences.
No. Thanks for watching Off the Shelf Reviews.
Every night in my dreams, I see you, I feel you. That is how I know you. Go on. Far across the...
I'm the king of the